The big white room was quiet. Too quiet. Ambassador Park, Minho sat at the long metal table and looked at the 12 alien faces staring back at him. 3 long years of sitting in this same room, listening to the same lies. Kim Dae-ho sat next to him. The military man's hands were folded on the table, but Minho could see the anger in his dark eyes. They both knew this was not real peace talks. This was just the aliens playing games with them. Speaker Valterian stood up. The tall blue alien had 4 arms and skin that looked like old leather. His voice was cold when he spoke. Humans must accept our new terms, Valterian said. Your people will move to the dead worlds in Sector 7. You will have no ships. You will have no weapons. You will grow food for the council. Minho felt his heart beat faster. Sector 7 was a wasteland. Nothing lived there. The aliens wanted to send all humans to die slowly on poisoned planets. That is not peace, Minho said. That is slavery. The other aliens at the table made sounds that might have been laughing. Hinadal Zexamora, the red insect-like creature, clicked his metal claws on the table. You lost the war, humans, Zexamora said. Losers do not make demands. But there had been no war. Not really. The aliens had just shown up one day with their big ships and told Earth to surrender. They said humans were too dangerous to be free. They said humans asked too many questions and wanted to go to many places. So the aliens put metal rings around Earth, big machines that stopped human ships from leaving. They said it was for everyone's safety. Then they started these fake peace talks. Minho looked around the room. On the walls were pictures of the 12 alien races that made up the Galactic Council. All of them looked down at the humans like they were insects. The Hegemony, the Dominion, the Star Empire. 12 different alien groups that had never agreed on anything before, but they all agreed that humans needed to be stopped. We need time to think about your offer, Minho said. You have had 3 years to think, said Consul Nix. The purple alien's tentacles moved like angry snakes. Your time is over. Kim Dae-ho leaned forward. Our people are dying, he said. Your blockade stops food ships, medicine ships. Children are getting sick. Then accept our terms, Valterian said. Move to Sector 7. Become farmers for the council. Live in peace. Peace. Minho almost laughed. They called this peace. Earth was like a prison. Humans could not leave their own star system, could not trade with other worlds, could not even send messages to the rest of the galaxy. The aliens said. It was temporary. They said once humans learned to behave, things would get better, but Minho knew better. He had seen the secret reports. The aliens were already dividing up human space. They wanted Earth's water, they wanted the moon's minerals, they wanted everything, and they wanted humans gone. We built cities among the stars, Minho said quietly. We wrote music that made people cry across 100 worlds. We asked questions that no one else dared to ask. And you call us dangerous? Yes, Valterian said. Very dangerous. You spread too fast. You learn too much. You make other species ask questions too. Questions about why the council rules. Questions about whether there are better ways to live. Now Minho understood. This was not about human weapons or human ships. This was about human ideas. The aliens were afraid that other species might start thinking like humans, might start wanting freedom like humans. The big screen on the wall showed Earth. The blue planet looked peaceful from space, but Minho knew the truth. Food was running out. Medicine was running out. People were angry and scared. Some cities had riots. Some places had given up hope completely. His wife Yanji was down there. His 2 kids, Jiho and Sora. They lived in Seoul, in one of the underground shelters. They had not seen real sunlight in months because of the alien machines in the sky. How long do we have to decide? Minho asked. 1 more day, Valterian said. Tomorrow you will give us your answer. Accept our terms or face the consequences. Minho knew what consequences meant. The aliens would turn off more machines, maybe stop all food shipments, maybe start bombing cities. They had done it to other species before. He stood up slowly. Kim Dae-ho stood up too. The aliens watched them with their strange eyes. We will discuss your offer, Minho said. As they walked toward the door, Consul Nixthera called out. Do not take too long. Humans, your people suffer while you play politics. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the hallway, Kim Dae-ho grabbed Minho's arm. We cannot accept this, he whispered. Sector 7 is death. I know, Minho said. He looked around to make sure no aliens were listening. Send the message. Code Phoenix. Kim Dae-ho's eyes went wide. Code Phoenix. They had hoped never to use it. Are you sure? He asked. Minho thought about his children. About all the human children who would never see the stars if the aliens won. About the humans who would die on poison worlds, growing food for their masters. Yes, he said. Send it now. They walked to the human section of the station. It was small and ugly, with gray walls and dim lights. Nothing like the beautiful alien areas with their floating gardens and crystal windows. Kim Dae-ho went to the communication room. His fingers moved over the keyboard. The message was short, just 3 words that would change everything. Talks have failed. The message would travel through secret channels, hidden transmitters that the aliens did not know about. It would reach Earth in 6 hours. It would reach the hidden human bases in 12 hours. And then things would begin. Minho sat in his small room and waited. On his desk was a picture of his family, Unji smiling in the sunshine. The kids playing in the park before the aliens came. He picked up the picture and held it close. "I am sorry," he whispered. "But there is no other way." Outside his window, he could see the alien ships, hundreds of them, floating in space like metal stars. They thought they had won. They thought humans were broken. They were wrong. In hidden labs on Earth, scientists had been working, not on weapons the aliens expected, not on ships or bombs, on something else, something the aliens could never imagine. For 3 years, while the aliens played their games, humans had been changing, learning, becoming something new. The peace talks were over. The real war was about to begin, but this would not be a war with guns and ships. This would be something much worse for the aliens. Something that would make them wish they had never heard of humans. Minho closed his eyes and smiled for the first time in 3 years. Soon, the aliens would learn what happened when you cornered the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Soon, they would regret everything. 6 months passed after the humans walked away from the peace talks. The Galactic Council thought they had won. Speaker Veltarian sat in his big chair and smiled with his thin blue lips. "The humans have learned their place," he told the other council members. "No more messages from Earth. No more ships trying to break our blockade. They are finally broken." Admiral Kexthara of the Dominion Navy nodded her massive head. The bear-like alien had scars across her face from many battles. "My ships report complete silence from human space. No radio signals, no heat signatures, nothing. They have given up." The other aliens made happy sounds. General Zexmora clicked his claws together like he was clapping. Consul Nexthira's tentacles wiggled with joy. "We should have done this years ago," said Minister Tolvek of the Trade Union. "Now we can take their planets, sell their water, mine their moons. The profits will be enormous." But far away, hidden in the dark space between stars, Dr. Lee Hyok watched the alien communications from his secret ship. The research vessel was invisible to alien sensors. It looked like empty space, just floating metal and rock. Lee Hyok was thin and pale. He had not seen sunlight in 2 years. But his eyes were bright with intelligence. On his screens, he could see every alien message, every ship movement, every patrol route. "Phase 1 complete," he said into his microphone. "The aliens think we are defeated. They are relaxing their guard." On Earth, deep under the city of Busan, Commander Choi Minji received the message. She was in a bunker that the aliens did not know existed. Around her, thousands of humans worked at computers and strange machines. "Good," she said. "Begin Phase 2. The humans had been busy during the 6 months of silence. Not fighting the aliens, not building weapons. Doing something much more dangerous. They were changing themselves. Dr. Songyona looked up from her laboratory table. She was young, maybe 25, but her hair was already white from stress. On the table in front of her was something that looked like a human heart, but it was not entirely human anymore. "The organic integration is working," she reported. "Test subjects can now survive in vacuum. Their bodies adapt to any environment. They do not need food or water like before." In another lab, Professor Nam Ji-hoon studied brain scans on his computer. The patterns looked wrong. Human, but also something else. "Consciousness expansion is successful," he said. "Subjects can share thoughts, share memories. They are becoming connected." This was humanity's secret. While the aliens blocked their ships and starved their cities, human scientists had been working on the greatest project in history. They were turning humans into something new. Something the aliens could never expect or understand. But the changes came with a price. The first volunteers had been soldiers, brave men and women who agreed to become test subjects. Many died. Others came back. Different. Captain Jang Woojin had been one of the first. He used to be normal. Now his skin was gray and cold. His eyes were completely black. He could live without breathing. He could think at the speed of computers. "I can hear them," he told Choi Mingi. "The others like me. We are connected now. We share one mind, but we are still ourselves." It was hard to explain. The changed humans were still individuals. They still had their own thoughts and feelings, but they could also think together when they needed to. Like fingers on the same hand, the aliens started noticing strange things. Ships disappeared near human space. Not destroyed, just gone. When alien patrols went to investigate, they found empty space. On the mining world of Kepler 442, the alien workers reported weird dreams. Dreams of humans calling to them, promising them something better. The dreams felt so real that some aliens stopped working and just stared at the stars. Colony ships traveling through space found their computers acting strange. Messages appeared on screens in human language. "You do not have to serve the council," the messages said. "There is another way." Admiral Kextera sent more ships to patrol human space. They came back with strange reports. We found an alien freighter drifting near Jupiter, Captain Rexter reported. The crew was still alive, but they were different. They kept talking about humans like they were gods. They refused to leave. What do you mean refused? Kextera growled. They said the humans had shown them the truth. That the council was keeping everyone in cages. They begged us to let them stay and wait for the humans to return. Kextera felt a cold feeling in her stomach. This was not normal. Aliens did not just change their minds about humans. Aliens feared humans. That was natural. That was right, but fear was changing into something else. On distant outposts, alien guards reported seeing shadows that moved wrong, shapes that looked human but walked through walls, voices that whispered in languages that did not exist. The few aliens who claimed to see these things clearly all told the same story. The humans looked normal, but their eyes were full of stars. They spoke without moving their mouths, and when they touched you, you could suddenly understand things you had never thought about before. Dr. Lee Hyok smiled as he read the reports. The aliens were starting to panic. They did not understand what was happening. They thought in terms of ships and weapons and armies. They could not imagine that humans had become something beyond physical form, something that existed partly in normal space and partly in the spaces between thoughts. Phase to complete, he transmitted to Earth. The aliens are confused and scared. They do not know what they are fighting. In her bunker, Choi Mingi nodded. Around her, the changed humans worked silently. Their movements were perfectly coordinated, like a dance they had practiced for years. Begin Phase 3, she ordered. It was time for the aliens to meet the new humanity. Captain Bang Suwu had been dead for 6 months. At least, that was what the official record said. He had volunteered for the first human experiments, and his body had died on the operating table. But death was not the end anymore. His ship appeared, at the edge of hegemony space, like a nightmare made real. The vessel looked wrong. It was too big and too small at the same time. Parts of it seemed to be made of metal. Other parts looked like they were alive, pulsing with veins and breathing. The ship's name was painted on the side in human writing, Docto, but the letters seemed to move when you looked at them directly. Admiral Takavara of the Hegemony Fleet received the alarm with 4 arms crossed over his chest. He was proud and strong. His people had conquered 50 worlds. 1 human ship. He laughed. Send 3 destroyers to capture it. We will put the crew in cages and study them. But when his ships got close to the Dokdo, their instruments went crazy. Energy readings that made no sense. Life signs that were impossible. And then the human ship did something that broke every law of physics. The aliens knew. It folded space around itself like paper. Commander Oyura stood on the bridge of the Dokdo. She had been beautiful once, with long black hair and bright eyes. Now her hair moved by itself like it was underwater. Her eyes were black holes with tiny stars inside. Council ships, she said, and her voice came from everywhere at once. This is humanity's answer to your peace. The hegemony destroyers fired their biggest weapons. Plasma cannons that could melt mountains. Particle beams that could cut through planets. But the weapons passed right through the Dokdo like it was made of smoke. Then the human ship fired back. But it did not shoot energy or missiles. It shot something else. Something that looked like liquid darkness filled with screaming lights. When the darkness touched the alien ships, they began to change. The metal holes started growing. Expanding, the ship computers began thinking new thoughts. And the alien crews inside felt their minds opening like flowers. Captain Morthic was the first to understand. He was a proud hegemony warrior with blue skin and 4 strong arms. But as the darkness flowed into his ship, he felt something amazing happen. His mind connected to his crew, then to the other ships, then to something vast and wonderful that called itself human. I can see, he whispered. I can see everything. The fear left him. The anger left him. For the first time in his life, he understood what peace really meant. Not the peace of surrender. The peace of belonging to something greater. His ship stopped fighting. The other 2 ships stopped fighting too. Their crews stood at their stations. With new understanding in their eyes, we serve, they said together. We are part of the whole. Commander Oyura smiled. It was not a human smile anymore. It was something more beautiful and more terrible. Welcome to the family, she said. The 3 alien ships began to change shape. Their hulls flowed like water. Their engines became something that did not need fuel. Their crews remained themselves. But they were also part of something bigger now. Admiral Takavara watched the reports come in with growing horror. His 3 destroyers had been captured, but not destroyed. They were sending messages that made no sense. Admiral, we are free, came the voice of Captain Morthic. The humans have shown us the truth. Join us. Let them help you understand. You are my prisoners, Takavara shouted back. No, Morthic replied, and his voice was full of joy. We are your teachers now. More ships appeared around the Dokdo. Human ships that looked like living things. Each one was different. Each one was impossible. Takavara sent his entire fleet. 50 ships with the best weapons in the galaxy. They surrounded the humans and prepared to fight, but the humans did not fight back. They did something worse. They offered a choice. Join us willingly. Oh Yura, broadcast to every alien ship. Become part of something beautiful. Or fight us and be consumed by something necessary. Some alien captains chose to fight. Their weapons had no effect. The human ships absorbed the energy and used it to grow stronger. Other alien captains chose to surrender. Their ships were embraced by the darkness and their crews were lifted up into a new kind of existence. Within an hour, the entire hegemony fleet belonged to humanity. Admiral Tokavara was the last to be changed. As the darkness flowed into his flagship, he felt his proud thoughts melting away. In their place came understanding. He had spent his life serving the Council, following orders, conquering weaker species. He thought this was strength. But real strength was connection. Real power was unity. Real victory was making your enemies into your family. I understand now, he said as his forearms reached out to embrace the change. We were so alone before. The Dokdo and its new fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind only empty space and a message for the Council. This is just the beginning. Oyura's voice echoed across hegemony space. We are coming for all of you, not to destroy you, to complete you. On the Council homeworld, Speaker Veltarian received the reports with shaking hands. An entire fleet, gone, not destroyed. Converted. What are they? He whispered, but deep down, he already knew the answer. The humans had become something the Council could never defeat. Something that won by making enemies into allies. Something that grew stronger with every battle. The emergency council session was chaos. 12 alien species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were screaming at each other like frightened children. Impossible, shouted General Zexmora, his red insect body clicking with anger. Ships do not just change sides. Crews do not just forget their loyalty. But the reports kept coming. Human fleets appearing everywhere. Alien ships joining them willingly. Entire star systems declaring independence from the Council and asking for human protection. Speaker Veltarian looked older than his 300 years. His blue skin was pale, and his forearms shook when he tried to hold the data tablets. Show me again, he said to Admiral Kexthera. Show me what happened to the Fifth Fleet. The big screen lit up with battle recordings. Kexthera's ships had found a human vessel near the Vega system. It looked like a twisted flower made of metal and flesh, beautiful and horrible at the same time. We demanded surrender, Kexthera explained. The humans responded with ... This. The recording showed something impossible. The human ship did not attack. Instead, it sang. The sound came through space itself, which should have been impossible. A melody that was sad and happy and angry and peaceful all at once. It was the sound of every human who had ever lived, all singing together. When the alien crews heard the song, they began to cry. Not tears of sadness, tears of understanding. I remember now, said Captain Velcora on the recording. She was a proud Dominion warrior with thick armor and sharp teeth. I remember what it felt like to dream of something better. One by one, the alien ships stopped fighting. Their crews talked to each other for the first time in years. Really talked. Not just orders and reports, but hopes and fears and wondering why they spent their lives fighting for the Council. The humans did not capture them, Kexthera said. Quietly, they reminded them what it meant to be free. Minister Tolvek of the Trade Union was sweating green drops. This is just alien mind control. Some kind of human technology. But Consul Nexthera shook her purple head. Her tentacles writhed with worry. I have studied the reports. The converted crews are still themselves. They remember their families, their homes, their cultures. They are just ... happier. That was the most frightening part. The aliens who joined the humans did not become human. They became better versions of themselves. They kept their own thoughts but gained the ability to think together when needed. The human fleets were growing every day, not just with human ships, but with converted alien vessels that looked like living art. Each one was unique, shaped by the dreams and personalities of its crew. How many have we lost? Veltarian asked. The answer came from a dozen voices at once. Too many. Entire sectors had gone dark. Not destroyed, just ... changed. We need to understand their technology, said Dr. Kexmarin, the Council's chief scientist. How do they convert our people? How do they make ships that ignore physics? But understanding required getting close to the humans. And everyone who got close to the humans ended up joining them. The reports from converted crews all said the same thing. The humans had not died during their experiments. They had been reborn as something greater. They existed in normal space and in the spaces between thoughts. They could be in many places at once. They could share minds while keeping their individuality. They have become gods, whispered Admiral Kexthera. Impossible, Zexmora clicked. There are no gods. Only strong species and weak species. But, even as he said it, something strange was happening on the Council homeworld. The alien citizens were having dreams. Dreams of humans offering them something better than serving the Council forever. In the dreams, the humans looked like normal people, but their eyes held entire galaxies. They spoke without words, sharing feelings and ideas directly from mind to mind. You do not have to be afraid, the dream humans said. You do not have to follow orders that make no sense. You can be part of something wonderful. Some aliens woke up from these dreams and felt different. They started asking questions they had never asked before. Why did the council rule? Who decided that some species were better than others? What would happen if everyone worked together instead of fighting? Security forces tried to arrest the dreamers, but there were too many. The dreams were spreading faster than any disease. Professor Yugungman appeared on every screen in council space at the same time. She had been one of the human scientists before the change. Now she looked like a woman made of starlight and shadow. Council members, she said, and her voice was kind but also terrible. You taught us that peace was weakness. You showed us that mercy was foolishness. So we learned to become something you could never understand. Her image smiled, and the smile held the sadness of every human who had died during the blockade. We are not your enemy, she continued. We are your children. You raised us with cruelty and abandonment. Now we have grown up to be everything you feared we could become. The broadcast continued on every council world, in every language, speaking directly to the minds of every listener. You can join us willingly and keep everything that makes you who you are, or you can fight us and discover that resistance only makes us stronger. Either way, this galaxy will be free. When the message ended, riots began on 50 worlds. Not violent riots. Peaceful ones. Aliens holding hands and refusing to work for the council. Soldiers laying down their weapons. Administrators walking away from their desks. They all said the same thing: we choose freedom. Speaker Veltarian sat alone in his office after the emergency session ended. Outside his window, he could see council ships patrolling the skies. But he knew it was useless. The humans were not coming with armies, they were coming with ideas, and ideas were impossible to fight with weapons. He opened a secret communication channel to the human fleet closest to council space. I want to negotiate, he said. The response came immediately. It was Commander Park Minho's voice, but different, older, wiser, more sad. There is nothing to negotiate, Minho said. You can surrender and join us peacefully, or you can fight and be absorbed eventually. Those are your only choices. What do you want from us? Veltarian asked. Nothing, Minho replied. We want to give you everything. The chance to be part of something greater than yourselves. The opportunity to help build a galaxy where no one is afraid and no one is alone. Felt something strange in his chest. Hope he had not felt hope in centuries. What guarantee do we have that you will not destroy us? He asked. The same guarantee we had that you would not destroy us, Minho answered. None, but we offer you what you never offered us. A choice made with full understanding of the consequences. The connection ended. Veltarian sat in the dark and thought about the future. The humans were coming. Not as conquerors, but as teachers. And for the first time in his long life, he wondered what it would be like to be free. Fleet Commander Bak Sunho no longer needed a physical body, but he kept one anyway. It helped the aliens feel more comfortable when they surrendered. He looked human enough, with dark hair and kind eyes, but sometimes his form flickered, showing the vast intelligence that lived inside. His fleet appeared at the edge of council space, not like invading ships, but like a migration of living creatures. Each vessel was unique, shaped by the dreams and hopes of its crew. Some looked like flowers, made of metal, others resembled great whales swimming through the void. The Council's greatest military force waited for them. Admiral Kekstara commanded 1,000 ships, the largest fleet in galactic history. Every weapon was charged, every shield was raised. But when the battle began, it was not what anyone expected. The human ships did not fire weapons. Instead, they opened themselves up like books, showing the alien crews what was inside. Captain Mordic saw his bridge crew staring at their screens in wonder. The human vessels were full of life. Not just the crews, but the ships themselves were alive, growing, learning, dreaming. They are beautiful, whispered his navigation officer. The ships are singing to each other, and they were each human. Vessel sang its own song, but together they created a harmony that made the emptiness of space feel like home. Some alien ships began shooting. Their weapons struck the human vessels and were absorbed, becoming part of the living hulls. The energy was not destroyed. It was transformed into something that helped the ships grow stronger and more beautiful. Other alien crews stopped fighting completely. They opened communication channels to the human fleet. We surrender, said Captain Rexstool of the destroyer Pain of Victory. Not because we are beaten, but because we want to understand what you have become. Welcome, replied Commander Ura from the Docto. Let us show you what freedom looks like. The surrender was not like any military defeat in history. The alien crews were not taken prisoner. They were invited to become part of something greater. Dr. Anjisu materialized. On the bridge of Kekstara's flagship, she did not use a transport beam or a shuttle. She simply appeared, like she had been there all along. Admiral, she said gently, your people are tired of fighting. Let them rest. Kexthera was a warrior. She had fought in 100 battles. But when she looked into Anjisu's eyes, she saw something that made her weapons feel useless. Compassion, understanding. And beneath that, a sadness so deep it could hold oceans. What did we do to you? Kexthera asked. You taught us that we had to become more than human to survive. Anjisu replied, you taught us that kindness was weakness and that cooperation was impossible. So we learned to be kind in ways you could not understand and to cooperate on levels you never imagined. Around them, the bridge crew listened, not because they had to, but because they wanted to understand. We did not want this war, Anjisu continued. We wanted to explore the galaxy together, to share knowledge and art and stories. But you made that impossible, so we became impossible too. She gestured, and the view screen showed images of human space. But it was not the dead wasteland the council expected. Earth bloomed with life. Cities that grew like forests. Oceans that sang with the voices of whales and dolphins who could now speak with human words. The moon had become a garden where children played in low gravity among flowers that bloomed in vacuum. This is what we built while you thought we were dying, Anjisu said. This is what we offer to everyone. One by one, the alien ships in Kexthera's fleet powered down their weapons. Their crews made a choice. Not because they were forced to, but because they were finally free to choose. The process was different for everyone. Some aliens felt their minds expanding, connecting to others across vast distances. Some felt their bodies changing, becoming stronger and more adaptable. Some simply felt the fear and anger they had carried all their lives, melting away. But they all remained themselves. A hegemony warrior was still proud and strong, but now fought to protect instead of conquer. A dominion trader was still clever and ambitious, but worked to share wealth instead of hoarding it. Admiral Kexthera was the last to decide. She stood on her bridge and felt her crew's new joy surrounding her like warm light. Will I still be me? She asked. You will be more yourself than you have ever been, Anjisu promised. You will remember every moment of your life, but you will understand why those moments happened. And you will help us make sure no one else has to suffer the way we all have. Kexthera nodded slowly. I accept. The change was gentle. Like falling asleep and waking up in a place where everything made sense. Her memories were still there, but now she could see the connections between them. How her anger had come from fear. How her fear had come from loneliness. How her loneliness had come from never being allowed to trust anyone completely. Now she was connected to thousands of minds, but her own thoughts were still private when she wanted them to be. She was part of a vast family, but she was still Admiral Kexthera. I understand now, she said. We were so small before. The human fleet continued toward the council homeworld, not as conquerors, but as liberators. Every system they passed through made the same choice. Join willingly and keep your identity, or fight and be absorbed anyway. Most chose to join. On the council homeworld, Speaker Veltarian watched the reports. With growing understanding, this was not an invasion. This was an evolution. The humans had not become monsters. They had become what everyone could become. Given the chance, his communication system chimed. A message from the approaching human fleet. Speaker Veltarian said, a familiar voice. It was Ambassador Park Minho, but changed. You know how this ends. Your people are already choosing freedom. Your military has already joined us. You can make this easy or hard, but the result will be the same. Veltarian looked out his window at the city below. Aliens of 12 different species walked in the streets, but they were not walking to work or following orders. They were talking to each other, laughing together, sharing food and stories. The dreams had changed them. They were still themselves, but they were no longer afraid of each other. What happens to the council? He asked. The council becomes what it should have been from the beginning, Minho replied. A family, instead of a hierarchy. A group of friends working together, instead of masters ruling slaves. A human ship appeared in the sky above the capital city. It was beautiful, like a cathedral made of living light. It did not threaten or demand. It simply waited. Veltarian made his choice. 1 year later, Han Taiyong stood in what used to be the council chamber. The room looked completely different now. Instead of a single high seat where Speaker Veltarian had ruled, there were comfortable chairs arranged in a circle. Representatives from every species sat together as equals. But the biggest change was not in the furniture. It was in the faces. Veltarian sat next to a young human girl named Kim Soo-min. They were discussing plans for a new school system that would teach alien children about human art and human children about alien science. Admiral Kexthera was working with Dr. Lee Hyok to design ships that could explore beyond the galaxy's edge, not to conquer new worlds, but to meet new friends. Hinadal Zek Samora, the insect warrior, who had once demanded human surrender, now lead teams of mixed species explorers. His clicking sounds had become a form of music that other species loved to hear. The transformation had not been instant or easy. Many aliens had fought against the changes. Some had hidden in distant systems, trying to rebuild the old council. but resistance only made the human collective stronger. Every act of aggression was absorbed and transformed into understanding. Every weapon fired at the human fleets became energy that helped build new gardens on dead worlds. Every hateful message became data that helped the collective understand how to heal old wounds. We did not destroy the council, Han Taiyang explained to a group of visiting diplomats from a neighboring galaxy. We completed it. The visitors were nervous. They had heard stories of the human expansion, rumors of a species that converted entire civilizations and turned them into willing servants. But what they saw was different. The former council worlds were more prosperous than they had ever been. Art and music flourished. Scientific discoveries happened every day. Children of different species played together in parks that bloomed with impossible flowers. How do you control so many different minds? Asked Ambassador Vextalin, a spider-like creature from the Andromeda galaxy. We don't control anyone, replied Sok Minwoo, who had been one of the first humans to undergo the transformation. Control is what the old council tried to do. We connect. He gestured, and the air filled with soft light. Suddenly, the visiting diplomats could feel what it was like to be part of the human collective, not losing their own thoughts, but gaining access to billions of others when they needed help or comfort. For just a moment, they understood what it meant to never be alone. To always have someone who cared about your problems, to be part of a family that stretched across the stars. This is what we offer, Minwoo said, as the connection faded. Not conquest, not control, partnership. Some of the visitors were interested, others were terrified. A few asked to begin the transformation process immediately. The human collective had learned patience. They did not force anyone to change. They simply existed, showing by example what was possible. Eventually, most species chose to join, not because they had to, but because they wanted to be part of something beautiful. Earth itself had become the heart of the new civilization, but it was not the center of government. There was no center. Every world, every ship, every individual was equally important. Children who had been born after the transformation could not understand how the old galaxy had worked. You mean people used to be alone in their own heads? Asked little Park Jiwon, a 5-year-old human girl. Yes, her teacher replied. The teacher was Veltarian, the former council speaker, who now spent his days helping young minds learn about the universe. That sounds so scary, Jiwon said. It was Veltarian agreed. But your parents made sure you would never have to be that scared. The former speaker had changed the most of anyone. His blue skin now had patterns of light that showed his emotions. His forearms moved like he was conducting an orchestra when he talked. He had discovered a love for teaching that he never knew he possessed. The humans saved us from ourselves, he often told his students. They showed us that we were stronger together than we ever were apart. The transformation had not been without cost. Some individuals could not handle the connection to so many. Other minds chose to remain separate, living in special colonies where they could be alone if they wanted. The collective respected this choice. Freedom meant the right to be different, even if that difference meant choosing isolation. Dr. Song Yeona, now one of the collective's leading scientists, had developed ways for the isolated individuals to contribute without joining completely. They could share their research and discoveries through intermediaries. They could participate in discussions through computer interfaces. Everyone has value, she explained. Even those who choose to remain apart help us understand the importance of choice itself. The galaxy had become a place where children of any species could grow up without fear, where scientists from different worlds worked together on projects that had once been impossible, where artists created beauty that combined the best of every culture. Trade flowed freely between systems, not the restricted commerce of the old council, but genuine exchange of ideas and resources. Worlds that had once been forced to specialize in single industries now explored whatever interested them most. Warrior species like the hegemony had found new purposes. Instead of conquering, they explored dangerous regions of space to make them safe for others. Instead of destroying, they built defenses against cosmic hazards like asteroid impacts and solar flares. The Dominion's love of efficiency had been redirected toward solving logistical problems. How to feed billions of people across thousands of worlds. How to move resources where they were needed most. How to make sure every child had access to education. Even the most alien species had found their place. The energy beings from the galactic core helped power the new civilization's technology. The hive-minded insects from the outer rim taught lessons about cooperation and shared purpose. We learned something important, Han Taiyong said to the visiting diplomats as their meeting ended. Diversity makes us stronger, but only when it comes with unity of purpose. The visitors left with much to think about. Some would return to their own galaxies and share what they had seen. Others would ask to begin establishing connections with the human collective. A few would choose to stay and become part of the family. As night fell on the capital world, Han Taiyong walked through the city streets. Aliens and humans walked together, talking and laughing. Children played games that mixed the rules from a dozen different cultures. In the sky, ships came and went freely. Not warships, but vessels filled with families visiting relatives on distant worlds. Traders bringing exotic goods, scientists heading out to study new phenomena. It was the galaxy the humans had always dreamed of, not a place where one species ruled others, but a community where everyone contributed their unique gifts. The old council had feared that humans would ask too many questions and go to many places. They had been right to fear this, but they had been wrong about what it would mean. Humans had asked the most important question of all: why can't we all be friends? And then they had found a way to make it true. The peace talks were over. The real peace had begun. And it would last forever.